So, can you believe it, after all of these years, after all of these decades, with all the new products coming out that include vapes and new vaporizers and gummies and edibles and tinctures, that the most popular delivery system still is smoking cannabis? And that probably has a lot to do also with those people in states where it's not legal or fully legal yet, and so they need to get their product from the black market, and the only thing that you can really get is cannabis. So I just wanted, I have a lot of people coming to me now of interest in combining our expressive meditation, the whole emotional liberation program. And I have people who have never involved themselves in cannabis at all, anything. People who are coming from the yoga community, a lot of teachers, particularly from the Kundalini yoga community. My tradition certainly honors Kundalini. The emotional liberation work we do draws heavily on the Kriyas there. So it's no surprise that people who are involved in Kundalini would come to me in regard to emotional release through this work. So I wanted to just go over very quickly the approach that I follow in making a joint. And of course we have this nomenclature that's decades old, right? So a joint will always be a joint, and if you get charged or triggered by somebody smoking a joint, that word is still here, right? So I don't roll a cigarette, I don't roll whatever else you'd want to call it. I roll a joint, you roll a joint. But let me say from the very beginning that you do not have to roll a joint. Back in the day when I was in college and I was self-medicating with cannabis for depression and anxiety and a whole host of other emotions, the only thing I could get was smokable dried flower cannabis, right? And so what we would do is we would put it in a grinder, and to this day we put it in a grinder, and we put it in there and we grind it. So you put a bud in there, and then you can cut it up into little pieces and put it in there, and then you just grind it, and what's going to happen is it's going to come out like this. So way back then, before all this other stuff came out, all you had were papers to roll. And I remember, you saw people who could actually roll a joint with one paper in their hand and, their other hand tied behind their backs. And I always marveled at that. What I had to do was actually, I could never actually hold it up and roll a joint. What I had to do was put it on a table and roll it like this. Well, now all that has gone away, because you can actually, and I highly recommend this. I don't have any vested interest in telling you this, but it's the best. The raw organic hemp. It's organic and it's hemp. And I really like this. And the big deal, I mean, you can get the papers, but the big deal is that you can get them as cones. And so what's a cone? A cone is, it's ready so you can put the dried herb in it, and it also has a filter. So when you actually take a pull from it, or actually a toke from it, that it's actually going through a filter. Now, it's really preferable to do vaping these days, because the vape is actually, you're taking in the gas from the vapor, as opposed to combustion when you do this, whether it's through a pipe or a joint or a bong. You are actually inhaling, and you can get particles, burned particles from the combustion. So that's what I want to tell you here, is to light it in a different way. So let's say that you're actually going to make a joint, create a joint. So you just grab this, you buy these, you can get these off of Amazon, and you can actually just put it down here like this. And they have little pieces of of cardboard tubes, like a little straw that comes in these. It keeps them straight, but you also can actually use it as a little spoon to fill the cone, and you do that, and it doesn't take too long. And you can actually tap it down with this. See how, it's coming here. And so it will eventually look like this. And that's just easy. No fuss, no muss. And then the other piece is when you're rolling them, you might have accumulated a number of different types of flour, different strains. And I mean, I have a lot of different strains. And in order to differentiate what you have, it's very important to mark them. So like this right here, I take a very fine tipped pen and just write right there on the filter. So this one is 2-to-1 THC, so that I know when I am looking for a particular type that I want to meditate with, I can actually look. So here's one that is a combination of THC 20% with a strong CBD. So I know, and I'm not doing any gambling. I know exactly what I want. There's another 2-to-1 THC. 2-to-1 THC means that it's twice as much THC as CBD. And then there's CBD only here. So that's a wonderful way to mark them. Now, the other piece is when you light them, this butane lighter, when you click it into gear, and that blue flame can be over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And when you light it, and when you're inhaling it, the butane comes in, and along with the downside of butane, the particle, it's hard on your lungs. There's a number of things that are problematic with butane, and so you want to avoid that. But how do you avoid that? Well, we have something that is called hemp wick, and I don't actually have the package. There's many companies that make hemp wick. And it's just hemp, and you can buy it organic. I always buy it organic, and it's covered with beeswax, organic beeswax, or I guess maybe they don't know if the bees are organic, but it's always beeswax, and then I do organic hemp. And you light it with your butane lighter. See that? And then this is said to be about half as hot as the butane, and so you can just light your joint that way, and blow this out, and then there is your joint, and it's lit, and you haven't actually inhaled any butane. That's, as a clinical nutritionist, I like to avoid that kind of stuff whenever possible. And then the other piece is when you take a hit, and I don't smoke on screen because of the stigmas associated with it, but when you have that, when you take it in, and I would highly recommend, if you're just starting to do this, just take one hit in, one draw, and just sit with that one for about 10 minutes and see how that feels. And you can always light up again and do it again, or however many times you want. But if you get too high, you can take it away. You can do some CBD. You can just take a couple of squirts of CBD if you get too high. But let's just talk about, that's kind of off topic right now, but let's just talk about, you have this lit. And the other piece I like is, instead of smushing it out in an ashtray, it ruins your joint. What you can do is you can get one of these, what's called a snuffer. So it's just this was a ceramic one. I got it in a head shop. I forget what the alternate name for a head shop is, and then put it in a little ashtray there, and when you're done with your joint, all you need to do is put it in there, and then it just extinguishes it because it doesn't give it any more oxygen, right? And so then you're ready the next time you actually have your joint ready to go. So I think that's the sum and substance of the tips that I wanted to give you today. Please, I'm sure my community has a lot to say about this. Please drop down to the comment section and let me know where you stand with this, and if there's anything that you've improved on also with the joints. I mean, this is just beautiful. The cones where you fill those up and you don't have to roll those things. So let me hear from you, and let's see what else. I guess that's it. I'm Becca Williams, and I want you to lead your most magnificent life, and I want to help you do that.